Welcome back to my channel, horror fans. We are taking a break from the many London Film Festival 2022 reviews as there's this little franchise ender that just released. So today we are discussing Halloween Ends, taking place 4 years after the events of Halloween 2018 and Halloween Ends. We find a Laurie Strode that has decided to liberate herself from rage and fear and learn to embrace life. But when a young man is accused of killing a boy he was babysitting just 1 year after, it ignites a cascade of violence and terror in Haddonfield that will force Laurie to confront the evil she can control once and for all. I walked into Halloween Ends very trepidatious. I was lukewarm on the 2018 Halloween. I thought it was an okay follow-up to one of the horror classics we have, and I was not a fan at all of Halloween Kills. It felt very much like a filler movie in between the actual story they wanted to tell. But it's precisely because of those issues that I have with Kills that I walked into this one with slight hopes, as I felt they had reserved all their good ideas for this finale, proving that this shouldn't have been a trilogy in and of itself. We should have had the original 2018 and a movie to cap it all off as a trilogy on its own, as this new timeline that continues that original story, because these Halloween movies, the original, never gave way for a long-running franchise. In fact, all the timelines that we've had up until this point in the Halloween franchise eventually makes the huge mistake of making it all supernatural and very clear and give answers as to who/what Michael Myers is. What works about their original movie, about The Shape, is the mystery. It's the ambiguity. It's the fact that we have no answers. It's the fact that we have no explanation. And for all its faults, Halloween Kills continues that tradition of making him a presence of evil. He is just evil incarnate walking among us. So guess what Halloween Ends does? It does the exact same mistake, but continuously breaks all the rules that it sets up within this film, but also the rules that it set up within the previous films in this trilogy. There are good aspects to this film. I feel that the direction by David Gordon Green is very Carpenterish. He creates this really nice atmosphere when it comes to this town of Haddonfield. He makes Haddonfield itself a character, particularly in this film. And once more, we have a banger John Carpenter score here that really rackets up the tension more than the script ever does. I think there are a lot of good ideas in this film. The concepts that are presented in Halloween Ends are not necessarily bad, but it's what the filmmakers decided to execute upon it that really doesn't work. Let's talk about how this is the climax to the story of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, and their side characters in this film. The main character here is that babysitter, accused of killing a young boy 1 year removed after the events of Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. And it just doesn't work. This is not a very interesting character. There are interesting ideas tackled with him, like I said, throughout this film. There are interesting ideas, but how they're implemented into this film just feels so contrived, so frustrating, and it's a disservice to everything they've been set up. This would have worked to follow this character, Corey Cunningham, who is taunted and looked down upon by the rest of the town because they see him as just another monster. Because Michael Myers, not Mike Myers, that's the wrong guy. Let's move on. Because Michael Myers has disappeared, and there are a ton of questions when it comes to that we'll get to, the town has sort of looked for a new boogeyman, but it doesn't work to just focus on this character for the entire movie that is supposed to be a climax for someone else's story. This could have worked if the honestly quite effective opening scene of this film had been inserted after the escape of Michael Myers in Halloween 2018, and we have followed this character being accosted and being bullied and being accused of being a monster by everyone in his town throughout this entire trilogy, it would have blended really nicely with the half-baked idea of everyone in Haddonfield being stupid and creating this lynch mob that just goes after whoever we point the finger at in the first place. That would have blended in really nicely with the effect Michael Myers has. But to focus on Corey when we have been building up to close out someone else's story really doesn't work. Plus, it's not a really interesting examination of a character's downfall, because as we see in that, again, quite effective opening scene, it's an accident. That kid was being an absolute brat. He doesn't deserve to die because of it, but we see Corey is not a bad guy whatsoever. But then throughout this film, he is made a monster. He's made a monster that can take down Michael Myers. He's made a monster that helps out Michael Myers. He's made a monster that kills the most people in this film and assists Michael Myers with the other two, or rather Michael Myers assists him. He is not only the protagonist, he is the lead monster here. And it's this really undercooked plot that is just forcefully interjected in between the stories of Michael Myers and Laurie. It's essentially what Joker did, but much worse. And I'm already not a big fan of Joker. To be fair, it's not like the filmmakers completely forget about Laurie Strode. Corey is interjected into her narrative. He begins dating Allison. He begins to kind of feel like this monster that she has to put together, creating this very different relationship between the new monster and Allison that Laurie had with her own monster, Michael Myers. But it just feels so forced when Allison eventually turns against her grandmother and feels this attraction for this boy, where again it feels like they're compensating for not having done anything interesting with Allison throughout the previous two movies, but specifically kills, and now they're injecting everything into this 2-hour finale where they really didn't know where to go. They're like pulling strings together, see what works, throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what works, to see what sticks, and nothing really does. Again, these are interesting ideas in concept. They're just mashed into this film where the focus should be on something else entirely. And that brings us into Laurie Strode herself, who has such a frustrating purpose in this film. Because she started out as a badass in this new trilogy. She started out as essentially real-life Sarah Connor. And now, in the climactic chapter of her story against her monster, she essentially turns into Sarah Connor from the beginning of Terminator 1. So the climax of her trilogy, of Laurie Strode's story, doesn't really have a sense of escalation. It has a sense of de-escalation. Instead of raising up the stakes after killing her daughter, after killing Karen at the end of Halloween Kills, we skip past all the remorse, we skip past all the rage, all the fear that will bring these two to clash against one another, the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. We just skip past that. And we have Laurie Strode just being good in life because of what it did to the town. That would have worked if Laurie was actually to blame. You have these moments in this film where people are blaming her for what happened, and it makes no sense. Because Halloween Kills made the horrible mistake of just making everyone in Haddonfield completely stupid and accomplishing nothing with their rage. They kill the completely wrong guy. Someone goes to prison, but nothing is accomplished on a narrative sense. And so it doesn't bring all these ideas together. Again, it feels like they started out in a good place, but they didn't have anything to tie it up. And again, it feels like they didn't have enough ideas for a trilogy. This should have been just 3 movies, counting with the original 1978 Halloween. In my opinion, Jamie Lee Curtis manages to crush this role that they give her in Halloween Ends. I just don't think the role itself is very interesting. She's reduced to being present in these moments where she gives these supposedly emotional and profound speeches to try and pull her granddaughter and Corey back to the light. But again, Corey's descent is not very well executed, is not that profound, it's not a really nuanced examination of a person's downfall, so it doesn't really tie in together with what Laurie sees happening. There's other reasons that it doesn't work in relation to Michael Myers that we'll get to. But again, even Laurie, she comes to this moment where she has decided to commit suicide because she feels she's lost Corey, she feels she's lost Allison, and she's lost Allison to Corey. She's lost Allison to the evil that is present in this movie. And that would have been a really emotionally profound moment if the movie had focused on her. And it doesn't. And so you spend this movie following this one kid that comes out of nowhere when it comes to the context of this entire quadrilogy, let's say it, counting with the original Halloween now. Laurie Strode's narrative doesn't focus on her when it comes to the climactic chapter that it's supposed to converge all the story threads, all the characters together. And she's pushed to the side. So that moment when she's writing a letter, not only do I not believe that she's going to kill herself, it's not hitting any of the emotions. Another thing that doesn't help is that they show that moment when Corey opens the door and Laurie Strode is pointing the gun at him. That moment hadn't come, and that's where all the marketing focused on. The entire marketing of this film focused on delivering the standard, typical Halloween stuff that, honestly, when it comes to the last 15 minutes of this film, doesn't impress me much, but at least went along with the narrative that connects all the movies. All the build-up has been leading up to those final 15 minutes, but even they don't feel that satisfying because the story wasn't focused on Laurie and Michael, and again, just feels rather standard. It's a nice battle, but it should have come off at the end of kills. Again, because they don't have enough story. This film doesn't really have a story about Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. So we had to forcefully focus on someone else and then just contrive our way into bringing Laurie and Michael back to the fold. And even Laurie doesn't get a great finale. Corey kills himself because he's way too in love with Allison, and then Allison blames her grandmother. She turns against her again. There's just no way this makes sense. Not in the way this film comes to these points. The way the film builds up to hit on these points, it makes no sense. And only for Allison to 5 minutes later say, you know what? No, I'm on my grandmother's side. And it's so frustrating because, again, it has good ideas. Halloween Kills. I don't like it. It's very boring. It's very uneventful. It has good ideas. The execution is just frustrating. But while Halloween Kills is just boring, this film is just plain out stupid. It is when it focuses on Corey. It is with what it does with Laurie Strode that is just very uninteresting. And it's particularly stupid when it comes to Michael Myers. Michael Myers doesn't show up until 40 minutes, around 40 minutes in this film. And it's not like they're building him up to show up. They're not like keeping the monster in the shadows like Jaws, like the original Halloween. No, he's just not the focus whatsoever. We're focusing in on Corey. So when Michael Myers shows up and grabs Corey by the throat, and we have these quick flashes of visions, which the filmmakers don't really make it clear. They don't really make it clear in that moment, and they don't really make it clear with the way the narrative follows through, where it could be that Michael Myers either passes his evil onto Corey, or he sees the evil that is already in him. So once again, we have made Michael Myers supernatural. Like in Halloween 4, 5, and 6, as he did with little Jamie Lloyd. She was the next evil incarnate. This should have been Jamie Lloyd, by the way. I'm a fan of that character. But then Michael Myers is just this wimp that Corey can take down. He's just been sitting in the sewers for 4 years with his mask still on. We don't know if he has eaten. And if he hasn't eaten, it's spectacular that he has survived for so long, because just in one night, he was shot around 10 times, I think. He was bitten by a lynch mob, he killed someone, and then he just disappeared. But he has survived all this time. So okay, Michael Myers is a force of nature, and yet Corey can take him down on his own. And yet Michael Myers needs the help of Corey to kill Allison's ex. And even when Michael Myers kills Allison's ex, once he does the stabbing, it feels like he regains his strength. It feels like he comes back. But then he continues to be easily taken down, to keep on needing Corey's help. The one person he kills is that nurse without assist. So when it comes to that final confrontation, where he finishes Corey off on the third act, but Corey had already done the job pretty much by himself. So a Michael Myers that is wounded and that is completely demystified doesn't feel that impressive by the end of this film. Because in Halloween Kills, he was an absolute force. For as much as that film didn't do anything special in terms of a plot, Michael Myers was a force. He's a force of evil. He is unstoppable. We don't know how, we don't know why, but alright, Kills established that this dude is absolutely unstoppable. And yet, in this movie, a teenager can take him down, and he has survived all these years without eating, and he just regains his strength, apparently, from killing one dude. But at the end, Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode by herself, can kill him. It's not the satisfying buildup that the filmmakers think it is. Because throughout this film, they've contrived everything they've established in this previous trilogy. All the buildup they have made with Michael Myers in the original, in 2018, in Kills, it's all torn down. And the story, because it doesn't focus on Michael Myers, because he's so much an afterthought in his own franchise, he is the monster. You do not replace the monster in a monster franchise. It just doesn't make any sense. To have started off this trilogy as a tribute that pays homage and keeps going with the supposed narrative plans that John Carpenter had with the original, where he didn't even want Laurie Strode and Michael Myers to be brother and sister. So 2018 does a great job of continuing that narrative, even though I have my issues with it. It has some brutal kills, and this film has one brutal kill. It has alright kills, but when it comes to Corey killing that radio host guy who keeps bullying him as well, like the rest of the town, cuts off his tongue and all, that's fucking awesome. I love that. I just wish that the rest was as brutal. But because it's all Corey, none of it is Michael Myers. Michael Myers is completely left to the side. He's very much a wimp throughout most of this movie. He gets taken down by one man alone. He gets to take his mask. So then, as the film builds up to that finale, it's this new dude that brings him back to Laurie Strode's life. That's another thing I didn't like about Halloween Kills. How it makes it so that, no, Michael Myers is not after you. He's just after anyone who comes in his way. And so it's not a crescendo anymore. The fact that we have this final confrontation feels random because they took all the personal weight away from it. It's not satisfying. Because the focus was not all over the place. They decided to swing for the fences. They decided to take this U-turn completely. And I admire it in concept. Because in concept, it could have tied in the whole thing together. But because the ideas are so undercooked, because the ideas are so introduced late into the game, and they are so far removed from everything that we have established, from everything that we've been building up, and because we failed to pay so many interesting concepts off in the last movie, now this one also doesn't feel like it has a satisfying payoff. So when it comes to the very ending, where Laurie Strode, after cutting Michael Myers' throat, after carrying him on top of the car for all of Haddonfield to see, and they throw him in the car crusher, and we see it in practical effects, all this body being smashed and the blood and all that, it's not satisfying. You made it not personal to Laurie Strode. You undercooked the idea of the citizens of Haddonfield not only blaming Laurie Strode, which makes no sense because you've established this is not personal, and made them completely stupid in the last film, blaming a person that is in no way to blame for what has happened. We've come to this. We've come to the moment where, in the end, Laurie Strode by herself defeats this man, because that's what he feels like in this film. He's just a dude. She comes to that conclusion, even though this film has at the same time been building him up as a wimp who can barely stand up on himself. He's just a weak old man. But at the same time, you have that moment where He sees the evil, he transfers the evil onto Corey, he's reinvigorated once he kills again. And why did he decide to stay in the sewers? Was it because he was wounded? Because if you show that he gets stronger when he's killing, he should have just killed. So many ideas that don't tie in together at all, and it's frustrating because again, all these three movies have ideas, and the very issues I had with Halloween Kills, they're exactly what kind of show me, okay, so that wasn't really that good at all, but it's probably because all the good ideas are left for this one. And it clearly wasn't the case. So it ends on a whimper. Doesn't end on a raging fire, on this satisfying, gratifying conclusion where Laurie Strode, one of the best final girls of all time, got this rejuvenation when it came to Halloween 2018. Michael Myers as a killing force in film, an iconic slasher, goes out in the way he does. The kill itself at the end is cool from a visual sense. I think David Gordon Green, again, has good ideas, and he clearly wanted to tie it all together with the idea of what he decided to do with Halloween Kills and now this. But the citizens of Haddonfield are so dumb, they're so stupid, and they play such a little part in this film. However, with all my frustrations, it doesn't mean I have the right opinion. There is no such thing, so I need you to start the conversation in the comments below about your thoughts on Halloween Ends. I'm surprised to see many people love it, but I love that people love it. So let me know how it worked for you down there. And if you're enjoying my Halloween Ends review, I'm currently reviewing all the LFF movies that are coming out, so check that out right up here. And if you want to see more reviews like this, or if you just love movies and TV, this is the place to be. So consider clicking that subscribe button, and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. The ideas were just not introduced at the right time. They were not ordered right. They did not converge in a satisfying way. Halloween 2018 is a nice restarting point. Halloween Kills is dull. It's uneventful. It's a filler movie. But Halloween Ends is plain out stupid. It shames both the franchise's icons as total afterthoughts. Laurie Strode regresses from a badass Terminator 2 Sarah Connor to a Terminator 1 Sarah Connor, and Michael Myers is absolutely demystified. A haphazardly put together waste of a climax with no rhyme or reason. It's an exercise in de-escalation and just abysmal. I'm giving Halloween Ends a D. That is unfortunately my long-winded take on Halloween Ends. Let me know what you make of it in the comments below. Stay tuned for many LFF reviews still to come, and thank you so much for watching. Thanks to my channel members for always supporting the channel, and until the next one, love each other and love the movies.